What's up, all my dorks, nerds, geeks, and gamers? It's your host, Ghost here, and you're watching a brand new episode of Dorks Den Movie Minute. Today we're going to be talking about Hawkeye, episodes 1 and 2. Episode 1 entitled Never Meet Your Heroes. This one starts off with Kate Bishop, of course. We get to see her backstory. It takes place back in 2012, the first Avengers movie, when the Chitauri first attacked New York. We actually get to see the attack of New York from a different angle, which I really love this scene because we get to see the same thing with Endgame through the snap. With Monica Rambeau, we got to see how that looked from the citizens' perspective. So now we get the same thing with Kate Bishop, but during the Avengers attack, the initial one with the Chitauri. Very terrifying. These aliens come out of nowhere. They start destroying things. She sees Hawkeye, who is on the corner of that building, who is popping off the Chitauri from different angles with all the different arrows he had in the first Avengers movie. So she kind of gets inspired from him, and from there she kind of is, she's a rich kid, so she has a lot of advantage. She becomes a world martial artist. She's great at fencing. She's great at gymnastics. She's basically the best at martial art. Anything she does, she's the best at it without really trying too much. And that's kind of her character arc. We then find out that her mother is tied up with this kind of criminal organization. We don't know what's going on there, but there is these underground auctions for different items that are illegal, such as the Ronin sword and the Ronin costume. So Kate Bishop hears about this. She gets involved somehow, some way. She makes her way down to the basement, and that's when everything happens. The wall explodes. These guys in jumpsuits come out with guns. They basically just start stealing all the stuff. They're looking for something in particular. Just then, that's when Kate Bishop decides to steal the Ronin suit. She puts it on and she becomes Ronin for the night, and she kind of beats up these guards using whatever skills she knows how to do. We also know she's a great archer from the scene before this, where it shows her shooting a bell tower, and she accidentally hits it too hard and knocks the whole bell tower down on accident, of course. So it's kind of shows she's good, but she's a little bit naive, and she doesn't know how her powers can affect others around her. And it's going to be very cool to see Hawkeye kind of teach her these things, how the responsibility of being a hero is. Episode 1, we also get our first look at the Lucky the dog, the one-eyed dog. He does show up, and she's kind of like, what are you doing here, or whatever. That's kind of the start of their bond. And he comes into play later after she beats the guys up after stealing the Ronin costume. The dog is now beating up one of the guys, so she goes and saves the dog. So she takes him to his apartment. But before that happens, she's about to get jumped by a bunch of the jumpsuit guys. They get her surrounded with two vans. And that's when Hawkeye does show up to save her. He's on vacation with his family. So he's basically spending time with them, and he sees this news report of someone in a Ronin costume going around. So he says, oh crap, I better see what this is all about. So that's how Hawkeye gets tied into it. And it's also very funny because there's the Roger the musical, Steve Rogers the musical, and it's a very hilarious take on the Avengers in a Broadway setting. Very funny to watch Clint Barton sitting there and kind of take this in with his family. Well, he's not the type of guy who really is into those Broadway kind of shows. So very funny scene. Love the dynamic between Kate and Clint and how they first meet. He shows up very awesome, very cool entrance. He shows up on top of the van, takes out guards, dropping them down. You see the arrows come through. Very cool. So he decides to team up with Kate. They go back to her apartment, and I believe that's where episode 1 ends. We pick off episode 2 entitled Hide and Seek. With the apartment getting attacked with Molotov cocktails because the jumpsuit guys have found her. And Clint basically calls his wife and says it's going to be a few more days. We got to figure this out. These guys are after this girl. She stole my costume. Now I got to solve all this and find out who's at the top, and who's in charge of all this. So he stays behind. We get a little bit more with Kate Bishop finding out a bit more of the mystery of going on by finding a dead body, and thus tying her to everything that's going on around her. So then she's kind of this focal point of everything now. At the same time, her mom is seeing this new man who is basically tied. I know for a fact he's tied to this whole plot somehow, some way. We don't know as viewers yet how he's tied into it, but we know for a fact he is. Just because Kate can tell he's lying about something, and she's been calling him out on it, and as his viewers know there's something wrong with this guy that's kind of manipulating her mother and all that. But my theory is her mother's actually in on it more than the guy is, and that she knows more of what's going on than Kate does. So that's just my theory. I think the main villain is going to be Kate's mother, and it's going to be Clint and Kate kind of having to take her down some way, somehow, with Clint kind of helping her through the right and wrong things of doing this. So yeah, it's going to be a very fun series to see. A lot of very cool action scenes in the first 2 episodes. I do like the bond they're starting to build with Clint and Kate. Like I said, I don't want to spoil everything in these 2 episodes because there's a lot that goes on, but once again, it is a slower burn show. So yeah, very cool to see. The action scenes look good. I do like the characterizations of Clint and Kate and where they're taking the 2 characters. I do like Lucky the dog, how they're tying him into this as well. And I love the Christmas setting of all the chaos going down around the Christmas time and the period and all that. So yeah, great show. Episode 1, I'm going to give a 8 out of 10. I'm going to say it's a solid episode. But it did drag a little bit, so I'm going to take it down a few points for that. And it did a well enough job setting up Kate Bishop as this new Hawkeye character. The only problem I had is she's kind of a Mary Sue, kind of like Rey was in Star Wars, where she's kind of good at everything already. So it's hard to put her in a situation where she's going to be kind of down on her luck and she's going to have to really use her wits to get out of it. So we'll have to wait and see if they do put her and Clint in that kind of situation. So yeah, that's the only thing I'm kind of nitpicky about on these first 2 episodes. But episode 1, 8 out of 10 for Never Meet Your Heroes. And episode 2, Hide and Seek, with a bit more action sequences and a bit more focus on Hawkeye and less on Kate. I'm going to give episode 2 a 9 out of 10 because I did like that. I like the focus on the more human aspects of Hawkeye, such as he's deaf now because he's been through so many explosions and glass and everything else thrown through walls that he cannot hear anymore. He has one good ear and he has a hearing aid in that ear, and they make it very clear to Kate that they are both human beings. And that out of all the Avengers, he's probably the one that suffered the most physically on his body. So that was cool to see as well. So that's why I give that 1 more point above the others. But episode 1, I did like that flashback of the first Avengers movie. But that's just my thoughts on the 2 episode, guys. 8 out of 10 and a 9 out of 10. Let me know what you guys thought of them so far. Let me know down below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. And tell me where you think this series is going in the future. Let me know down below as well. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. And as always, guys, keep it right here on Dorks Den. I've been your host, Ghost. Adios.